Episode 5 just may be my favorite episode thus far. As we learn the true identity of a literal internet troll kindergarten, we also see more of Emma's struggles with the baby, and speaking of Emma, we finally see that photo. We'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler breakdown of episode 5 of The Changeling. But first, make sure to share your thoughts on the episode as well as sharing any theories, predictions, and deeper meanings you all took away from this episode in the comments below. Get your ready as we got an episode to break down, full spoilers ahead. As we open the episode with the person who has Emma's photo, my question is, what's the importance of this particular art guy? As whomsoever is not taught by the mother will be taught with the world. Does that line directly relate to Emma and her relationship with her mother? Did her mother not teach her the ways of being a witch? Which, speaking of Emma, let's start off by breaking down her opening scenes. As we see the first encounter with Emma and the woman by the waterfall, as she immediately and smartly walks away, we see Emma asking the locals, who exactly is this woman? We see that Emma was immediately warned to not return because it is badly haunted and this washerwoman is indeed a witch. They tell Emma to never return, but more importantly, don't let this witch touch you. As we ultimately see Emma making her return to this witch, my question is, was this a matter of curiosity that brought her back to this witch, or was it a desire to learn more about herself, potentially being a witch herself? As the next lines may point to this, it's mythical, what women are capable of. Too terrifying, a mystery too layered and complex. Beautiful beast. They can't comprehend what women do, so they try to take their powers, snuff out their unique light. Always has, always will. Scared of the magic inside, can't see it? Look harder. As it appears that Emma definitely has magic inside her, but needed this witch to unlock it. As Emma meets the Norwegian photographer and begins to explore the beauties of Brazil, as we see the scene that Marcel from episode 1 was talking about to Apollo playing out. Now the question that first popped up to me was this location that this photographer took her to a special location? Was it a spot where witches go to fully unlock their abilities? But also, this particular photographer, as well as we'll talk about with William's true identity a little bit later in this breakdown, does this photographer have anything to do with William and his friends? Because to me, him suddenly having to go to the bathroom seemed to be very convenient, but also possibly coordinated. Now, along with this camera, we see Emma sets up the shot to do her self-portrait as she begins to take her clothes off and turns around. As we go to the photographer developing this photo, and just as the photo starts to appear, we cut away. Now, I know this is how you develop photos, but the significance of the water being the means to make it develop seems to connect to the importance of water that we've had so far in this show. As we see the person running the art gallery looks at the photo online and has it arrive to his location, the camera pans to show us that William and his family was actually there, as we finally get to see the photo of Emma looking like a sorceress. Does this connection between Emma and these Norwegian men who seem to be so connected to this photo, does it date back to 1852? Was there once an alliance between the witches and the Norwegian men? Was eventually broken and set off this hatred between the two different groups? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Now, we'll be going back to this soon, but let's catch up with Apollo, who's on the island, as he finds a message left by Emma, who was once in the same holding cell as him, as the message reads,
"They bathe it at dusk, they hide it with guile, home in the forest, ever lost in the wild."
As William calls Cal Pearl Walker, who was raised off the coast of Maine and was known as a shoplifter, a heavy drinker, and a mother of one. I assume that Pearl's baby wasn't a baby as well. Another example of information Williams has on people. Yet again, is this showing that he is a technologically savvy individual, or does he have mythical powers of his own? As Cal, or should I say Pearl, responds by saying that she should have burnt him alive, but wanted to leave that task to Greta, who was told to come to the island because of what William did, which was, according to Cal, kill his actual daughter. Now, William claims that this is all a lie and that she is casting a spell because this is what witches do. See, Cal gives Apollo a second and final chance, which he takes because Emma told her that he would find her, but Cal didn't believe nobody short of a god would find them, but Apollo managed to do so. As William speaks in Norwegian, and I'm pretty sure this translates to what he actually said in English, which was, "Don't forget me, Apollo. Don't forget me, brother." Now, I assume the pie that Cal was referring to last week was humble pie, as she is testing Apollo to see if he's ready to learn this truth. As Apollo isn't afraid to die, he just wants to know exactly what happened to his wife. As Kyle tells him, he'll learn in due time. She doesn't want to rush this process because she doesn't want any misconceptions. As there are no forms of transportation that can bring Emma back from where she is. She's out there, but things must be understood first before he can go find her. So my question is, where exactly is Emma? Is she in another realm? Is she in another world amongst other witches? Or, as we'll discuss here, I initially thought that all these scenes that we're going to break down here were all flashbacks with her and young Brian, but I do believe there were some scenes in which it was real time being told within the story of the show from her perspective, but I also believe, what if this is where Emma is? What if this is a realm in which you go back to particular points of your life? As we cut to, again, maybe a flashback or where she actually is on her journey to saving baby Brian, we see her telling him that she doesn't feel right, that there's this feeling of a pit of sorrow. She feels panic. She feels that it's suffocating the love that she's supposed to have for her child and wishes that she had better love for him. That line right there. Again, I know we can take this as like a literal moment in time, a flashback between the two characters, but again, what if this is the journey she has to go through to save Brian? To a scene of their wedding night where Emma throws the flowers so far that it lands in the streets and it gets ran over. To me, that was definitely a sign of like a bad omen. She wished the baby knew a different her and had a different mother. To me, this is an example of an actual flashback going on as we see her messaging the wise ones online about questioning anyone else feeling that their baby isn't their baby. Kyle messages her back about the disappearing messages. Kyle wants to help but needs to know if Emma is brave enough to follow through. Now at the same time, she receives a text message saying to not listen to witches, ha ha ha. Now Emma finally screen grabs these messages, but we see that they immediately get deleted. So that answers the questions from the first 3 episodes of this show. Why won't Emma screenshot the messages being deleted? Well, we see that she did that, but they immediately got deleted within her phone, which definitely I think we can all agree, the person that was doing that is 100% William, and he definitely has to be hacking her technology and her phone, or at least someone that's working with William that has the capabilities of doing so. Now, you all will notice that there are 782 members of the Wise Ones page. Are these 782 women that work with Cal and that they are on the island, or are these other women across the world? Back with Apollo and Cal, she gives him the book that he's very familiar with, and Emma shared this with Cal, who points out how much Apollo is interested in this book and this story and how accurate it is to his current situation, dealing with magic, witches, evil fairies, and changelings. Which, speaking of changelings, we witness our first encounter of what Emma believes she saw with this baby. We see the baby in his changeling form mocking and laughing at her and striking her, as we see Emma fights back by throwing a bottle at this baby, and she messages Cal that she's ready to do the task. Now this scene showing Emma avoiding taking those pills that can maybe help her out, I really like how the show is still dangling the idea that this can all be in Emma's head. As Emma doesn't want to do is ask of her, as she has the bag of chains next to baby Brian's crib. She loves the baby. She would be willing to give up anything for this baby. Her life, Apollo's life, and she says yours, referring to the changeling, as it bites her and we see the face of the baby starting to change. Again, I know we can take this as a show giving us flashbacks and her struggling with the baby, but I feel this is happening in that location to where she might actually be in another realm, some type of task or challenge or a journey that she has to go through to save her real baby Brian and removing that evil that is consuming him. As my theory of why Apollo threw up last week is confirmed by Cal, as once they crossed that bridge, they entered another world. As she mentions other mythical locations like Themyscira, while this island was once Brother Island, it was unmade and they remade it for a safe haven. As Apollo sees the other mother and their children being protected, they have a library and a school. They have everything they need to survive peacefully. Question I have going back to this island and the 782 members of the Wise Ones. Are they all witches? What is it that they had to go through to have their changeling baby? The baby that's not the baby. Now, this is my kind of crazy working theory right now. What if Emma and Apollo are going through what they're going through with baby Brian? Didn't have much to do with Apollo cutting that red string, but what if all these women, including Emma and their changeling babies, have to do with them getting pregnant by someone with a Norwegian bloodline? Of course, this may not happen every single time because we obviously see women and their other children that clearly aren't changelings, but I believe it connects to the bloodline and goes back to me thinking that Apollo's dad Brian has the blood within him, and unfortunately it passed down to Apollo, but it slipped him because maybe there's something mythical or special between him and his mother and her bloodline. As we learn that Emma was on and off the island for a few months and she would go back to New York to restock their library books, which would explain the video footage that Apollo saw in last week's episode. We get some really great character development where Cal describes Emma's will and her strength, seeing her trying to set up the baptism, going and doing whatever she can to save this baby, and then cutting between the conversation between Lillian and Emma about the relationship of mothers passing along information like a chain and giving strength to one generation to another. To me, it really is building on the plot that Emma isn't evil or bad. She made the decision that she thought was best to save her family and save the baby. As Cal points out and reads a passage from the book, babies are dreams made real. Dreams are fairies' favorite meal. Now, to me, these fairies sound absolutely terrifying, and I think we meet one of them a little bit later in this episode. Now, this might turn out to be absolutely nothing, but notice the woman behind Apollo in this very scene. Is it me, or was that Emma? Now again, this might not be nothing, because again, we all know that Emma is supposedly not on the island, but maybe she is. Let me know if you thought that was Emma as well, as Cal reassures that the book Brian read to Apollo as a child was all truthful, and that Emma willed him to the truth, and they now are in this ugly fairy tale, and there's no signs of going back. As Cal confirms that they are indeed witches, but also confirms what I said last week, William is in collaboration with monsters, as we cut to the scene from episode 2, where Emma was trying to tell Apollo about the missing photos and the message she got saying, "Got him," as she told him that he didn't see this, but he will, which is a great callback to earlier in this episode. Do you see the magic? Look closer, as Apollo is ready to finally learn more. Now we wrap up the episode with Apollo meeting a young girl by the name of Gal, as we see him having these great instinctual moments as an actual good father, him reading to the kids and sharing the story from the book. To me, this is just great character stuff. Again, just building these characters, and again, cutting this between a very beautiful and sentimental scene between him and Emma, just reminding us about their love story and us as an audience wanting them to be happy and being together as a family again. As Apollo tells Cal that he would like to meet Greta, for he can hear her side of the story of what happened to Agnes, as it's time for the puppet show, and Greta has arrived. As we learn that her other daughter is safe with her parents, and we see just how terrified she is of William, who believes that Greta and the kids are his, as she tells Apollo about the book that William sent her, and that he ruined the book by putting the name of their dead daughter in every single page of that book. And we also learn that he took the money out of her account, and that money equaled the amount that he gave Apollo, which was $70,000. As Apollo is filled with rage, he runs to confront William about his lies. As William isn't his name, he didn't know who he was really. Then he found a place that he felt belonged to and the people that understood him. When he found his people, he removed William Willer's face, and that's when he found his true face and his true identity. They gave him his true name, as we already know it, as Kindergarten. As we end with Emma's photo in the art gallery, and William and his family walk by it, and he notices it, and you have to imagine this is what set him on the path to finding Emma, but also meeting the baby that he wants to consume. So my prediction that I made in last week's video of who the true identity of the Kindergarten is, and it literally is an internet troll who we know to be William, so I guess it's safe to assume that he literally, Kindergarten is children, obviously ages 4 or 6, he eats these children, and I guess he ate his daughter Agnes. But then I'm curious on how did he manage to get away with eating his child? Did his wife not go to the police? I mean, I know you can't say to the police, my fairy husband ate this child, but maybe the police are connected in some way to these group of people. William did say that he knows a group of people that are very skilled, that are more skilled than the Fed. So maybe these people have people in positions of power. Maybe these are the creatures from the sea who walk amongst them. I also feel confident in saying that the person that was messing around with Emma with those photos was definitely William, aka Kindergarten, or at least people that he knows within that group that was messing with her. Now, overall, I thought this episode was fantastic. I love the character moments with Emma and showing us the other side, showing us her side of what was going on, but still playing with the idea that this all could still be in her head. And then Apollo, the willingness to listen and finally kind of making up for him not listening in episode 2, which was so frustrating for me, but also him discovering what Cal is doing to protect this community. And my goodness, the actor that plays William, aka Kindergarten, that switch is just phenomenal. From this weird, creepy guy who works in IT to becoming this dark and sinister monster, and that voice and the way he looks, because you notice he has a completely different face. So he is definitely consumed by some type of possession or monster. And the voice, sounding like some demented, evil, possessed version of the Joker, was just great. But this also has me thinking about William's face change. Do you all think, going back to earlier when we saw Apollo having that nightmare of his father Brian ripping off that blue mask and having the blue smoke come out of his mouth, is that a similar transformation Brian potentially changes face as we're seeing with William, aka Kindergarten, do? So again, connecting Brian to William being fairies? Let me know your thoughts on that. So I hope you all enjoyed today's breakdown and my thoughts and my theories that I share with you all of this 5th episode of The Changeling. But before we end this video, make sure to share your takeaways in the comments below. And again, if you all appreciate today's breakdown, consider hitting the like button, sharing this video, and also consider subscribing to the channel. Help me reach my next goal of 60,000 subscribers. I would greatly appreciate it. You all are amazing. Thank you again for watching today's video. Be safe, and I'll catch you all on the next breakdown.